Hi, everybody, and welcome to another lesson. I don't know which number this is, but it's another lesson. And depending on when you're listening to this, I hope that you're either having a great spring break or that you had a great spring break. Today's lesson is called Creating and Producing an Event, or Let's Put on a Show. And if you've ever seen any of the old Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney movies, they were all exactly the same, and in every one of them, it had that line. I know. Let's put on a show, which makes it sound like a very easy thing to do. However, it's not, as you're about to find out. So the first thing I designed here was a slide called "What You Need." And there are a number of things that you need in order to put on a show. Now, let's be clear when I'm talking about putting on an event here, I am specifically referring to a for profit musical event. Now, there's other types, of course. There's all kinds of events where you don't have to show a profit, like if, say, AT&T walks up to you and says, here's $2 million, hire Taylor Swift and put on an event. Uh, okay, that's a done deal, and you don't really have to worry about some of these things that we're going to talk about because you do not have to show a profit. There are events that are non-musical events, such as weddings and things. And a lot of this would still hold, but for what we're talking about, we are talking about a for-profit musical event. And of course, the first thing that you need is at least one artist. You certainly need a headliner. That could be uh, any number of zillions of people, and you'll have to go out and find that for yourself. And I'll go into specifics on these in a little while. The second thing that you have to have is a venue. You must have a place to put on your event. And there are many types of venues. There are anything from clubs to arenas and all the different sizes and types of events in between. You have to have money. You can't put on an event without money. Once again, unless AT&T walks up to you and says, "Here's $2 million. Do this." Those are the easy kind of shows. I love those. Um, Revenue streams. You have to have a way to make additional monies. What are some of the revenue streams? The most common one is sponsors, and we'll talk about that again in a minute. You will need sponsors to put on your event. You're going to have production. And what do I mean by production? Well, that's all that stage and all that fancy stuff and lights and sound gear and all of that. You're going to have that, and that is another whole project in itself. And then you'll have to have promotion. You'll have to be able to promote your show. And then the big thing that I talk about a lot, and I'll talk about it more, is insurance because insurance, you can't do anything without insurance. Even if you think you don't need it, it's still going to be required that you have it in just about any event that you do. Now, if we talk about these one at a time, the first thing obviously that we would want to talk about is the artist. And I'll talk in another lecture about exactly how to go about booking artists. That's another whole um, ordeal in and of itself, and a whole process that we'll talk about later on. But you have to have an artist before you can start planning an event. And the reason you have to have an artist is because you have to know how much it's going to cost. You can't begin to set a budget until you have some idea of what it's going to cost. And of course, you need to know the availability of your artist. You need to know some approximate dates or some dates when your artist is going to be available. You need to know the type of music. You need to know what his target audience is. And then you'll need to know the production requirements so you can figure out what it's going to cost you to produce this show. So you'll also have to find a venue, which is a place to hold your event. And you'll need to know what is that venue going to cost you. Venues come in several different sizes and shapes, but all of them will have some sort of a price for rental because, well, that's what they do. And they're either going to charge you a flat fee, or they might charge you by the ticket, or they might have some other scale that they charge you, and they will be happy to tell you that. But you need to know what a full house at that venue is going to cost you. You'll need to know, among other things from the venue, is the venue's seating chart and their typical ticket scaling. Now, what ticket scaling is, of course, this is a seating chart here for BPAC on the campus of Delta State, and you'll see that there are different colored seats. And you can pretty much guess that they charge a different price for each of those colors. That's ticket scaling. And you'll see that for every possible venue, and I'm sure you have seen that. The other thing that you would need to get from the venue is their tech rider, which looks like this. This is the tech specs for the stage, also at BPAC. And you can see that there's a lot of information here. It has the stage dimensions, tells you everything you need to know about the fly system, which of course is the way you hang lights and all of that sort of stuff. BPAC is one of the places, as most performing arts centers do, they have their own lights and lighting control and lighting systems. And most of them also have built-in sound systems and all sorts of different things that you may or may not need. It depends on what the artist requires of you. But this is the type of stuff that you would see in a traditional stage spec from any venue in the world. And you can find these. Pretty much just go to the venue's website. I'm sure you can find them for every venue in the United States at least, and probably world over, because this is the information that you have to be able to use the venue. Other information you would need for the venue is what type of security do they provide and what do they require. The same for staff. Do they provide ticket sellers, ticket takers, and all of the other staff, ushers that are needed to run your venue? And then, of course, insurance requirements. Again, what do they require for insurance? That's always an important question to ask. So once you get the approximate cost of your event, now it's time to go out and start raising money. And how do you go about doing that? Well, the first thing you need to do is create a proposal. And this needs to be a written proposal, and it needs to be formal, and it needs to look great, and it needs to be sellable. So what's some of the information that you need in your proposal? Well, obviously, your event is going to have a name or a title of some sort. If it's a concert, it may be an evening with, it may be any number of things. If it's a festival, it could be, the Main Street Festival or whatever kind of festival you want to call it. And if you're selling sponsorship, the first thing that you might want to try to do is sell a title sponsorship, which would be Trustmark Presents Mainstream Festival. So you want to be ready to try to come up with the best ideas that you can for the title or the name of your event. You'll need a description of your event. What is it? Is it a concert? How many bands are going to be there? Who's going to be playing? The same is true as if it's a festival. What else is going to be there? What else is going to be out there on the festival site to attract guests or to keep your guests happy or to enhance their experience? What is the rationale for the event? What are the goals of this event? And it can't just be to make money. There has to be other reasons for doing this. It's something to help the community. It's something to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. It's to do something that's beneficial to the world besides just making money for you, even though ultimately that's what you're hoping to do. It needs to have another reason to exist. It needs to have goals, both short and long-term goals. What is your target audience? Is it adults? Is it kids? What particular age group? What monetary range? Or is it for high school, junior high? What is it you're looking for? Um, the most money I can tell you is made with college and young adult audiences. That's where the greatest amount of money is to be made, but you can certainly make money on any kind of event. What's the venue going to be? How many people does it hold? What's the location of the venue? These types of things are important for the possible donor to know. They need to know these things. What are the dates for the event? What kind of equipment is needed? And this is not necessarily talking about lighting and sound equipment. This is talking about other things like forklifts and genie lifts and scissor lifts and um, porta johns and other types of things that are needed depending on what your venue might be. And what are the specific talents or abilities of the participants? Now, you're not really talking about the artists in this case. The participants would be the people like you and me. And what are we good at? What are our talents that enhance this and to make it worth somebody investing their money in you? What can you do? What is your special ability to make somebody want to give you money to put on this event? You will need a budget. Now, of course, this is not going to be a real budget. It's going to be an approximate budget because you don't have any idea what the real budget is going to look like. But it needs to be a line item budget. You need to have everything that you can spend budgeted. Um, and always remember when you're doing a budget, plan for the least amount of money, but budget for the most amount of money because I guarantee you your plans will go awry and you will end up spending a whole lot more than you originally planned to. That's always the way it works. The next thing is ticket prices. They'll need to have some idea of what the ticket prices might be, and they might want some input into the ticket prices. I have done events where sponsors want to know because they want to make events affordable. They know you have to make money out of it, but they want to make it affordable to the people they're their customers who they expect to go see the event. And you'll need a marketing plan, and we'll talk about that a little later on because you all know what a marketing plan is. The big question that the sponsors are going to ask you is, what's in it for him? What is your sponsor going to get out of giving you money for this event? And that can be, of course, a large number of things, other than just having their name put on it. What all will they get? Will they get a ticket package? Will they get special? Will they get to meet the artist? Will they get to have a meet and greet? Will any number of zillion things that sponsors are going to want to know, and they're going to ask you, well, what do I get out of this? You want my money? Okay. If I give you this money, what do I get in return for my money? Because trust me, they want something in return all the time. And they're also going to want to know who other investors are. And there's a number of reasons for that. For example, Budweiser is not going to invest in an event if Miller Lite already has. Bank Plus is not going to invest in an event if Bancorp South has. It's just the way it is in the world. Competitors are competitors, and they don't want to be involved in the same thing. And if you already had Bancorp South on board, they would tell you, don't bother going to any other banks. If you go to another bank for sponsorship, we will drop out.